All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Sales Vitamin Podcast, where every episode is an episode to help you with your professional sales development. And we have got a true sales professional today on the Sales Vitamin Podcast. Adam Halim, the Senior Vice President of Business Development for Flipp. You guys are going to find out what Flipp is all about today, and we're going to talk a lot about sales and strategy. He's got a great sales background, worked for Procter & Gamble, and we are going to learn a lot about sales today. And Adam, it is great to have you on the show.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Man, let's get right into it. Let's talk about Flipp. Give the listeners kind of the high level. I've checked out the website and looked at it, and I've got to get my wife in on it, and I think she'll love it. But tell the listeners what Flipp is and kind of the product and what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. So from a shopper standpoint, Flipp is an award-winning app. It's free to download. You can go to the iOS or Android app store right now and download it. And it brings all the circular ads, coupons, and deals from all your favorite retailers into one spot on your phone or tablet, or even through desktop. And if you use it, our shoppers end up saving about $45 a week on groceries, because we all know how expensive groceries are. It's the biggest bill you have outside of your mortgage and your car. And last time I tried to renegotiate my mortgage and car to try to convince them to give me a lower rate, it takes a long time. Yeah. So you got to look at your groceries to save money. So for shoppers, that's what we do. And we've had about 50 million downloads.
Wow.
So far, and it's just been like a really well-received app. And that's on the B2B side, B2C side. And then on the B2B side, what we do is we have this really about 5 million monthly active shoppers who are using our products. And so we connect with retailers and CPGs and help them tell their story to our shoppers.
Okay, nice. So if I'm the company ABC company X, and I'm being approached by you and by Flipp, what's the value or what's the differentiator there for Flipp versus some of your competitors and what they do? What's the value that says, you know what, John, here's why you need to use Flipp?
Right. So our biggest value is our audience.
Okay.
It's the shopper. At the end of the day, all you can do on our app is shop. There's nothing else to do. It's like literally the worst tool possible for like social networking or looking at cat pictures or what we joke around LOLing. So for our retailers and CPGs, they're looking at driving efficiency of their media spend. And so they know when they show up on the Flipp platform, they're dealing with people who are ready to make a purchase that week right away. And our shoppers are using the app every week. So that's the biggest differentiator for us versus other platforms like Google or Facebook or Snap or any of those other digital media channels. And then against print, what makes us different is print is probably realistically, that's our biggest competitor. It's this idea of CPGs or retailers mailing out printed material.
Yeah.
But where we're different versus print is we allow you to collect and understand data and personalize your message to the shopper. So you're not just dumping a bunch of print on people's doors and what we call spraying and praying.
Right. Now, it's interesting you talk about print versus digital. I had seen where you had talked about, the print may be a little bit better from what some of the things I've heard than the digital aspect. But what's the difference? So there's a gap. There's a huge gap between the print and that digital. And Flipp obviously is on the digital side.
Yeah. So let's take something like the weekly ad for retailers. I mean, even shoppers, you get these things in your mailbox and it's retailers telling you, here's what's happening in my store this week. Come visit. It's been like around for, at least from what we've seen, out like almost 100 years now. This idea of like, let's mail out stuff to the neighborhood and tell people what's going on. So what we provide, what's going on with print right now is it's a great idea. This idea of like, look at all these great products you can buy from me, because people love that content. It's an ad, but it's kind of like a Super Bowl ad. People actually want to see it. The problem with print is it's a dying media.
Right.
Now, I think books are still like very valid. I love using books, but I think when it comes to advertising, print is not what it was, 10, 20, 50 years ago. So a lot of shoppers are migrating and they're preferring to like learn about products and prices through digital tools. So they love the idea of getting everything via digital. So I say that's the big difference, is like really it's the shopper trend. And then coronavirus earlier this year, COVID, really just accelerated a reduction in print, because a lot of people just didn't want to touch the print, and a lot of habits changed. Now, the way I look at it, it still should be part of your marketing mix if you're a marketer. You can't just abandon print. I think that's a bad idea.
Right.
But I think what we're seeing is you got to now really improve your marketing mix by leveraging both print and digital to reach the shopper.
Yeah. What you talked about, loyalty, shopper loyalty. Obviously, that's huge to Fllipp. How do you? One thing I want to talk about is your platform, how you use the data, and take the listeners through that. And I know it's part of the sales process, but it's kind of behind the scenes on how Fllipp uses the data and how the consumer or the user uses that app, and how the data and how they work together.
Right. So because Fllipp is used every week to help people plan their shop, we're actually learning a lot from our shoppers, from the millions of shoppers, on what products they're looking for, what prices make sense, what brands are the best, what combinations of products do they usually want to engage with. And we have trip data because it's on the phone. It's all aggregated and anonymized, so we can never tell like an individual data point. It's impossible to tell like what John is doing, but you could tell what 100,000 people within John's neighborhood potentially are doing, or city. But we can understand which stores they visit. So what do they do on our app? What products do they discover? And then ultimately, what stores do they visit? Now, we never monetize our data. We made a decision a long time ago. We would never just sell our data, because our shoppers trust us and they trust our app. And so we will never just hand over data to a third party. But what we will do is, if you're a brand and you want to reach people who tend to buy vegan or vegetarian food, because we know what you're adding to your shopping list on our app, what products you're generally looking at, and what retailers you're visiting, we can come up with we have pretty good segmentation to be able to work with an advertiser and help them get their message to vegetarians or vegans potentially. So that's the kind of data we're sitting on, but it's a massive amount of data. We collect 5 billion data points a month. And
wow.
What's interesting is it sits in what we call a data lake. And so this is what's going on with a lot of these tech companies. It's just this massive, massive, massive store of data. To be honest, you can't even make sense of all of it. And so you're kind of sifting through this data lake to try to turn the data into an insight, and then that's all good, but then the insight into an action. So data really does power all of us, tech companies and media companies, and just managing and monetizing the data is like a whole industry on its own.
Now, you're the senior VP for the business development. You're dealing with large organizations in North America. I mean, some of the top companies, in the world, and obviously in the country. Sales strategy and leadership. How big of a deal is that for Fllipp when you're dealing with that? And how do you at Fllipp, as in your role, how have you gone about this strategy and the leadership standpoint?
Right. So I'm gonna really borrow from some leaders who've inspired me. I mean, Peter Thiel is somebody who's inspired me, and I love his phrase. He says, "Competition is for losers." Okay. And then I think about that. Then I think about somebody like Roger Martin or Michael Porter, but definitely Roger Martin, who talks about strategy as being a choice between a bunch of really good options. Okay. So when you think, I don't want to run a race against a million people. I just don't. I can't, the chances, no matter how good I am, I got to be humble and real with who I am and who our sales team is. And it's just, when you're entering a space that's highly competitive, it's just a recipe for disaster unless you're the number 1 or 2 player. So right. Fllipp, we were a startup. Nobody knew who we are. All the odds were working against us. So we thought, okay, how can we make choices that are unique to us and allow us to play a game that's different than everybody else? Okay. So I always advise any sales leader, don't just run out and start selling. Stop and sit down with your product team, if you're in tech, or your engineering team, or your marketing team, or your operations team. Sit down and think collectively, what is our business strategy, and how can I create a sales strategy that supports and builds on the strengths of our business strategy. And this allows you to go to the market in a totally unique way, which is what Fllipp did. And we made some like very weird choices when you look at it, but it worked.
What have you seen? Obviously you've got a great sales background, a great sales leadership background with your work previously at Procter and Gamble and Fllipp. What have you seen change from the sales profession over the years that you're kind of now at Fllipp? You're doing some different things, but what are some of the changes that you've seen that may be drastic or some that are really subtle?
So I'd say, I am a fan of the challenger selling style. And I feel like that's kind of come to fruition. What I've seen is the world has become so data and information is available to anybody right now.
Right.
So like you can't kind of go in and say, I'm going to come in and tell these people, give these people just information that they can't get elsewhere. That's like, it's like, forget it. You could walk in a room, they know way more about the subject than you do.
Yeah. Everybody knows how to use the internet now.
Yeah. Everybody knows how to use it. So really what it comes down to is analysis and strategy is really important, or analysis and insight. So what I like to do is I make sure when we show up to like a retailer, I think what's unique to us and how can we show up in a way that I'm giving them information that they can't get elsewhere, or insights they can't. And for us, it's our shopper data is a key piece of that. So I can go and say, here's what's happening with your shopper. And for a retailer or CPG, they love hearing that. They're obsessed with learning and understanding and satisfying the shopper. So that's an example, I would say, of like the industry has definitely changed to the point where you really need to come in with a unique insight. And the other thing is, I'd say when you sell, I sell ideas that they can execute with or without me. I think that's really important. If you go in and you just talk about yourself and your company, I always think, if I'm going to sit with this C-level executive or a VP, and I'm going to give them some information that they can turn around and they can look smart at their executive table. And they're not going to turn around and say, guys, have you heard about this amazing company called Fllipp? It's like, nobody talks like that at the executive table. But if they come in and say, hey, did you know that there's a massive growing segment of shoppers who are looking for value and savings, and it's accelerated since the start of COVID and the recession, and we should be really focusing on winning here because we could uniquely win. Dollar General is a great example.
Right.
Amazing retailer that could really win around when people start looking at value. When the budgets start getting tightened and you start getting worried about your job, Dollar General can step up and win. So that's the idea I would like sell to somebody like Dollar General. And I would say, by the way, Fllipp is really well positioned to help you bring that to life. So I think that's the best way to sell, is give them an idea they can do with or without you. But if you're in the right position to be the choice to help them bring that idea to life, then you're going to win.
Yeah. I think that goes back to, and let's talk about a little bit, the helping versus the selling, because Fllipp, using the Fllipp model and what you do, it's much more, you're going to have to help more than you are sell, like you just talked about.
John, you nailed it. There's even from a retail side, we tell retailers that the industry has changed. Amazon changes. So you got to move from selling stuff to shoppers to helping them buy. But it's the same thing on B2B. You got to move from selling something to somebody to helping them buy stuff, helping them make a decision, or helping them identify an area of opportunity where they could grow with or without you. So I think that's right.
Do you have any specific tools that you use at Fllipp, for an example, that you use with your sales team that really help you with that, from a helping to selling model that you and your sales team use?
Yeah. So we treat sales as a professional discipline. And I mean, I talk to my team, you got to attack it like an engineer. So an engineer doesn't just show up day one at a build site to build a bridge and say, hey, let's just figure this out.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like, guys, you gotta plan, have a significant amount of planning and calculation and understanding about how to bring this bridge to life. So I think about the same thing on sales. So we have something, I'll give you an example. It's called a meeting prep doc. So it's a very specific template that everybody has to fill out at least 2 weeks before a meeting. Now, we focus on very few verticals. So we're CPG and retail. So we have the luxury to be able to go deep with our partners. So we're not horizontal. But I think it's probably similar to your own background in that you guys are focusing on very niche industries, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so It's a meeting sales prep doc. And so what it says is date, title, attendees on our side there. And I'm like meticulous. If you don't fill it out, I'm not sitting down with you and I'm going to call you out on it.
Right.
Okay. Then we have the objective. What is the objective you want from the meeting? What's the outcome? And the objective has to be measurable, meaning like, is it internal objective? Meaning I want to walk out with a yes to do this, not I want to walk out with them liking me. Liking you. How are you going to measure that? How are we going to objectively measure whether they like you at the end of the meeting?
Yeah.
So I say clear objective. Then I say that's internal. That's for us what we want out of the meeting. And that is the first thing they have to figure out. And really, when you get super clear on what you want, the rest of the building the agenda or building the presentation becomes very easy because you'll just reference back. Is this information going to help us achieve our objective? Yes or no? If yes, keep it in. If no, ditch it. The second thing I do is I say, what is the one thing you want them to walk away with? The point. And it can only be one point. Like if they walked in and said, hey, our hour meeting is now 30 seconds. What is the point? And it has to be one line. And so the combination of what do we want out of the meeting and what is the one thing we want them to walk away with, that's a very powerful tool I find in helping us make sure that we're running a very effective sales meeting.
Yeah, that really helps define that clarity.
It's really important. Really important.
What are some sales skills and I know you probably interview a lot of people and interview a lot of sales professionals, whether they're entering the sales professional ranks or transferring, from another profession. What are some of the skills that you see lacking? And what are some of the ones that you say, if I had to pick 3 that really are the top ones, what are those that you see?
Okay. So I mean, like this one, everybody has to have as a sales professional, communication skills. Obviously,
right.
You have to be, you're a paid professional communicator.
Yeah.
If I can't understand what you're trying to say in as few words as possible, you failed.
Right.
So that's number one. It goes without question. The other thing is leadership. Now, leadership's a vague term, but leadership's important. I think sales is a great leadership developer because leadership is about developing followership or getting people to want to kind of follow you or want to engage with you or want to work with you. Right. And
right.
Leadership is about bringing an idea to life. Like there's so many great leaders, Elon Musk. I mean, going back, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, they're all great leaders. I don't think there's a lot of sales in that too. Right. So leadership is something we look for. I can't have somebody who hasn't demonstrated their ability to step into a room, take charge and bring about great results.
Yeah.
So execution is the other one. So I asked, how are you able to get things across the line? Because theory is great, but you know what the really hard part is? It's actually getting it done. So execution, So leadership, communication, execution, data fluency is the other new one. So that's a really important. If you are not comfortable manipulating spreadsheets and turning data into insights into action for our industry, you're not going to do well.
Right.
So I think data fluency is probably one of the newer ones. And then business acumen is the other one. Like, do you understand what value creation means?
Right.
And then we often will ask questions around like a value chain, like all the pieces of the value chain. Where are we going to create value? What's value for the retailer? How are you going to monetize? What's the maximum you could charge for something or not charge? So that a little bit of business acumen is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. How have you for your sales team, have you changed your process or anything during the pandemic since you're not, getting in front of them physically, but what kind of tweaks or changes have you made?
Oh yeah, this is probably, I can imagine every sales professional is rethinking their tactics right now. So part of our selling strategy prior to COVID was we traveled. We spent, we had 45 people flying once or twice a week. Like we had like subscriptions to the airlines where you could just show up. I mean, it was crazy. The amount we spent on travel is nuts, but we made that choice for a reason, right? Because it coincides with other choices.
Yeah.
So, and it worked really well with us. So on the downside, we were worried, oh my goodness, this is like our strategy. We're going to lose this face-to-face meeting. And the face-to-face meeting was powerful. Being in the building was powerful.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, we lost that, but the other hand, we gained something different, which is when we were traveling, we could do one meeting a day, the team. So 1 or 2 people would go out and travel. And really, you're focused on one meeting.
Right.
But now in virtual, what we learned is it was easier to get meetings with people because it was just a matter of like them saying, accepting the video call. That's what I found.
Yeah.
Second, people are more open because they were working from home for a bit. And I don't know if they were outside of the office or something, but there was a more informal and conversational nature to things. And people were more open to ideas and open to communicate, maybe because the world was changing around them too.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But the third one was we could have 4 meetings a day. So what I found is actually the frequency of the meetings increased virtually. Now, the next question is the quality going to be the same? Because when you're doing 1 meeting a day, you're focused and you're prepped and you're killing that meeting, right?
Oh yeah.
So now with multiple meetings, we did notice there was a little bit of a slip in quality. So we had to double down on our process and remind the team that like our rule is this, the kind of way we explain the meetings is when you meet with a partner, they should walk away saying, wow, I would have paid for that meeting. I literally would have given them $100 because that was so insightful, but that requires a lot of prep, right?
Right.
So I think that was the learning around the quality and putting in more rules to make sure the quality of the meeting was high. But right now we have an initiative kicked off for next year to do like a proper deep dive on like, okay, we can sell virtually. We've checked that off. Our business grew during COVID. Now, what does it mean? How do we really rethink the way we're selling? Are we going to have to leverage more asynchronous videos, for instance? More videos that we put out, little small sound bites. I think you're a master of this.
Yeah.
But get that out there, the one-to-many conversations. Are we going to have to invest more in B2B? Are we going to have to change the way we do video calls or prep for them? I don't know. But there's a lot of work that we kicked off an initiative to figure that out for next year. And I don't know what the answer is.
So with those changes, if I were to say, hey, Adam, do you want your sales force to be different or relevant? How would you answer that?
Oh, okay. So the easy answer is both. And I tell my team, I'm paying you for the and. The or is easy. I can go pick anybody to do one or the other. The really smart people and the people who create value is the people who can do both. So I would say both. And is what we want.
Yeah.
But I would say differentiation is core. We have to be different.
Yeah.
And we have to leverage what's unique to us, our shopper data, the fact that we only focus on retail and CPG, the fact that we are like experts in value communication because we deal with we literally power the weekly ad for 96% of North American retailers.
Wow.
So we have a unique vantage point on what's happening in the market. And so we got to use our unique kind of offering to win. And we also, people don't realize about Fllipp, but we have a B2C side, which is the app. But we actually have technology, like a tech stack that is enterprise software that we give away for free to the retailers and CPGs. So we were going to make money on that early on, but we determined, hey, we can max make $50 million if we sold this. But if we gave it away for free, we have a connection to our partners that then allows us to focus on the media side of the business. So I think we're going to continue to do things like that virtually, meaning we're probably going to give away things for free to the retailers and the CPG.
Okay.
That other people may decide to sell, but we're going to do it strategically in order to unlock something bigger.
What are some highlights so far? What are some wins for you from not only a sales standpoint, but from an overall Fllipp standpoint?
Right. So I think the biggest win for us is our shop. The shopper is the really, I'm going to borrow from P&G's old CEO, A.G. Lafley, and he says the shopper is boss, the consumer is boss. So for us, shoppers have migrated towards more digital solution en masse. Like we're all using more Facebook, more Netflix and more digital tools. So for us, the biggest win was right place, right time, and COVID has accelerated the number of shoppers using our app. So I think that's the number one win. The second thing is that we have built a lot of trust and started showing positive returns on, like really strong return on investment that outperforms print and other digital media channels this year. So we finally got some like really good measurement in place. I'd say that would be the second big thing. And then honestly, from a people standpoint, I think it's been amazing during COVID to just see like people kind of come together. You know, and sales can be hard driving, right? Like we've all been there. And what I kind of noticed this year with the Fllipp team, and it was like, I don't even know how to deal with it, is I actually have to do less pushing my team to sell more. I have a young team, like they call me dad, you know what I mean? But this millennial workforce, I actually think they work their butts off. And
Yeah.
they're very purpose driven. And I think what we realize we have to do with Fllipp is we have very smart, hungry people. When you're immersed in our culture, like, trust me, you're not going to want to take a day off. So what we actually have to do is help them take the day off. That's what I've noticed. I have to actually help them and say, hey, take it easy. Watch your mental health. Don't burn out.
Yeah.
Guys, prioritize. Pick what's most important. Focus on there. I don't want you to boil the ocean. And
Yeah.
ask them how they're doing. So I think the third best thing I've gotten out of this is just like really a human connections kind of developed. And I feel like very lucky that you can see that people are really passionate about their work, and I feel like it's time to support people more than push them to do more.
Yeah. What would you tell that young guy or girl coming out of school, maybe, and they're thinking about sales as a profession, as you talked about earlier, and making sure they treat it as a profession and not necessarily a stepping stone or anything like that? What would you tell that person? What kind of advice would you give them?
I would tell them that professional sales, like truly professional sales, is probably one of the most rewarding careers you can have, in my opinion. And look, I studied computer science and political science in school. I never was going to get into sales.
Yeah.
And it was a friend of mine who suggested it. I mean, he said, hey, you should actually look at this. And so I'm an analytical, like data focused person. And I think about strategy and data, and the old kind of tapes of a salesperson being like a used car salesperson is completely like false. B2B
Right.
sales is awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's so much fun. So I would say, if you're looking to do it, invest in it as a profession, understand the process behind it. And then I think you could have a really great career. And then rule number one is this: don't feed into the adage of, we talked to executives when Fllipp was launching, and one thing we kind of learned is that executives hate salespeople. They really do. They hate salespeople.
Yeah.
So we just accepted it. And you know what? And it's not because salespeople are bad. It's because there's so many bad people trying to be salespeople.
Yeah.
And so they ruin the this like drive for revenue, and just everything's about money. Nobody wants to work with somebody like that. So
Yeah.
I would say to the new people who are coming in, don't be a bad salesperson and focus on creating value on the other side. Don't chase money. Just create value, and people will literally throw their money at you.
Yeah. No, that's great. Good
Yeah.
sales vitamins there. One more question for you, but before we do that, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. What's the best place to go get the Fllipp app, and where they need to communicate with you?
Yeah, thanks, John. So again, go to iOS or Android, type in Fllipp, Flipp, 2 P's, and check out the app. I really would love it if you downloaded it, try it out, see if it can save you some money this week on the shopper side. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Adam Halim, or you can go to flipp.com, Flipp.com, and check out our career section. Maybe learn a little bit more about the company. We're always posting job opportunities, so anybody can reach out
Okay.
if they hear this.
All right, great. So last question for you, and every guest gets this question. So you've got one sales vitamin to give to your sales team. We'll just narrow it to that, to your sales team. What's that one sales vitamin you want to leave them with today?
Focus on meeting prep, not the meeting. Focus on meeting prep, not the meeting. I say it a million times. What makes somebody like LeBron James amazing is not what he does in the game. It's the 1,000 shots he takes every morning. It's the preparation.
Yeah. So that discovery, part of the discovery, just research everything.
Yeah, research, pre-align with your retailer. With your partner or the salesperson. Do as much as you can to prepare. Even prepare with them. I mean, the best meetings are handshake meetings. Everybody knows what's going to happen, and you're just shaking hands.
Yeah.
That's the ideal state. No surprises. You don't go in and out. So prep.
All right, great.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, this is Adam Halim. He's the Senior VP of Business Development at Fllipp. So get to flipp.com. Go check him out on LinkedIn. Get your family involved. Start shopping using that app. And it's great to have you on today. I'm just thankful you would spend some time with us. I know everybody's going to get a ton of value out of not only the sales information, but also about the Fllipp app as well.
Thanks for having me, John.
You bet.